Alright guys, welcome back to Badasses of History. This is part 2 of Alvin York's diary. We just left off with him killing 20 Germans, and this is what happens next. Enjoy. So I got a hold of the German major. After he seed me stop the 6 Germans who charged me with fixed bayonets, he got up off the ground and walked over to me and yelled, "English?" I said, "No, not English." He said, "What?" I said, "American." He said, "Good." Then he said, "If you won't shoot any more, I will make them give up." I had killed over 20 before the German major said he would make them give up. I covered him with my automatic and told him that if he didn't make them stop firing, I would take off his head next. And he knew I meant it. He told me that if I didn't kill him, and if I stopped shooting the others in the trench, then he would make them surrender. So he blew a little whistle, and they came down and began to gather around and throw down their guns and belts. All but one of them came off the hill with their hands up, and just before that one got to me, he threw a little hand grenade which burst in the air in front of me. I had to touch him off. The rest surrendered without any more trouble. There were nearly 100 of them. So we had about 80 or 90 Germans there disarmed, and had another line of Germans to go through to get out. So I called for my men, and one of them answered from behind a big oak tree, and the others were on my right in the brush. So I said, "Let's get these Germans out of here." One of my men said, "It's impossible." So I said, "No, let's get them out." So when my man said that, this German major said, "How many have you got?" And I said, "I have got a plenty," and pointed my pistol at him all the time. In this battle, I was using a rifle and a 45 Colt automatic pistol. So I lined the Germans up in a line of twos, and I got between the ones in the front, and I had the German major before me. So I marched them straight into those other machine guns, and I got them. The German major could speak English as well as I could. Before the war, he used to work in Chicago, and I told him to keep his hands up and to line up his men in the column of twos and to do it in double time. And he did it. And I lined up my men that were left on either side of the column, and I told one to guard the rear. I ordered the prisoners to pick up and carry our wounded. I wasn't going to leave a good American boy lying out there to die. So I made the Germans carry them, and they did. I taken the major and placed him at the head of the column, and I got behind him and used him as a screen. I poked the automatic in his back and told him to hike, and he hiked. The major suggested we go down a gully, but I knew that was the wrong way, and I told him we weren't going down any gully. We were going straight through the German front line trenches back to the American lines. It was their second line that I had captured. We sure did get a long way behind the German trenches, and so I marched them straight at that old German front line trench. And some more machine guns swung around and began to spit at us. I told the major to blow his whistle or I would take off his head and theirs too. So, he blew his whistle and they all surrendered. All except one. I made the major order him to surrender twice, but he wouldn't, and I had to touch him off. I hated to do it. I've been doing a tolerable lot of thinking about it since. He was probably a brave little soldier boy. But I couldn't afford to take any chances, and so I had to let him have it. There was considerably over 100 prisoners now. It was a problem to get them back safely to our own lines. There were so many of them, there was danger of our own artillery mistaking us for a German counterattack and opening up on us. I sure was relieved when we run into those relief squads that had been sent forward through the brush to help us. On the way back, we were constantly under heavy shell fire, and I had to double time them to get them through safety. There was nothing to be gained by having any more of them wounded or killed. They done surrendered to me, and it was up to me to look after them, and so I done it. So when I got back to my major's PC, I had 132 prisoners. We marched those German prisoners on back into the American lines of the battalion post of command, and there we came to the intelligence department. Lieutenant Woods came out and counted 132 prisoners. And when he counted them, he said, "York, have you captured the whole German army?" And I told him I had a tolerable few. We were ordered to take them out of regimental headquarters at Châtel-Chenery, and from there all the way back to division headquarters, and turn them over to the military police. On the way back, we were constantly under heavy shell fire, and I had to do double time to get them to safety. There was nothing to be gained by having any more of them wounded or killed. They had surrendered to me, and it was up to me to look after them, and so I done it. I had orders to report to Brigadier General Lindsay, and he said to me, "Well, York, I hear you've captured the whole German army," and I told him I only had 132. After a short talk, he sent us to some artillery kitchens where we had a good warm meal, and it sure felt good. Then we rejoined our outfits and with them fought through to our objective, the DeCauville Railroad. And the Lost Battalion was able to come out that night. We cut the Germans off from their supplies, and then when we cut off that old railroad, they withdrew and backed up. So you can see here in this case of mine where God helped me out. I've been living for God and working in the church some time before I came to the Army. So I am to witness to the fact that God did help me out for that hard battle. For the bushes were shot up all around me and I never got a scratch. So you can see that God will be with you, and if you only trust Him, and I say that He did save me, now He will save you if you only trust Him. The next morning, Captain Danforth sent me back with some stretcher bearers to see if there were any of our American boys that we had missed. But they were all dead, and there were a lot of German dead. We counted 28, which is just the number of shots I fired, and there were 35 machine guns and a whole mess of equipment and small arms. The salvage corps was busy packing it up, and I noticed the bushes all around me where I stood in my fight with the machine guns were all cut down. The bullets went over my head and on either side, but they never touched me. Alrighty, that is it for this episode, guys. I hope you enjoyed it. I know that it wasn't my words and it wasn't fun or anything, but I thought it was still really cool, so I had to throw it in there. If you like what you heard, tell your friends. Thanks.